This is what my house looks like right now. And we're going on holiday in approximately 3 days' time, and I don't want to come back to this. There is nothing worse than coming back from a lovely, relaxing holiday to an absolute pigsty. So we're going to do something about it today. Well, over the next 3 days. Because at the minute, doing it all in one day is a big no-no for me. I just can't get myself to do it. So in this video, you're going to watch me get it all done bit by bit. I'm going to get you motivated, keep you company if you're doing your cleaning. And I've also got some bonus footage for those of you who have been enjoying getting to know me and my family a little bit more. So in between each clean, I'm going to show you a little bit of our day. And after the clean's finished, I'm going to take you along on our holiday. So if you're only here for the cleaning, please feel free to skip forward. Either way, I hope you enjoy the video. So because this clean was such a colossal task, I decided to split it into 3 parts: downstairs, the garden and upstairs. And I dedicated a day for each one. It probably doesn't come as a surprise, given the state of the house, that I've been having a bit of a rough time. Motivation's been lacking, I've been anxious and paranoid. Happens to all of us sometimes. And to get me motivated to get the first part of this clean done, which honestly was mostly pots, I booked a lane in the bowling alley for me, Rudy and Charlie, and then a night at my mum's house. Sometimes I just think going home and spending time with your parents fixes everything. So knowing that I had that to look forward to and I didn't have to get the entire house done in one go made this a lot easier. There was a fly buzzing around these pots. That's when you know it's bad. Completely my own fault. So if you see me flailing my arms around like I've lost my marbles, that's what that is. Another reason I wanted to stay at my mum's house for the night was to stop us making more mess after we'd already cleaned it. That's one of my tricks during the summer holidays too, when the kids are off school. And a lot of mess will inevitably be made. I just get us out of the house as much as possible. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or expensive either, because I think sometimes we feel the pressure to take our kids to all of these experiences and days out that drain us of money. Going out for walks and visiting family, that's still making memories. It's still quality time, it's still bonding. Anyway, after I finished the first round of pots, my next task was to clear Chaos Corner. This is the part of the house that doubles up as a dumping ground and everything just gets stashed here. As you can see, there's lots of boxes in the corner and they're bits of furniture for the garden that we haven't built yet. I don't know if you noticed the dog crate just a second ago. That's not actually ours, that's my brother's, because we were babysitting his dog Smithers while he was at work. Smithers is a bit of a menace. He'll steal food from people's plates when they're eating. He jumps on the kids, not in a nasty way, but he gets overexcited. So sometimes he has to go into the crate to calm down, and they haven't taken the crate back yet. Just putting in a load of washing, because Charlie left his washing basket down here, and look at how many pots I've still got left to do. I just kept saying to myself, get the hard stuff done, and there's a reward later. We can do this. So after I got that done, I had a little break to set up our new stick insect tank. If you watched my last video, you'll know that one of our stick insect eggs hatched. We had stick insects last year and they laid a load of eggs and I wasn't confident that any were going to hatch, so I got rid of our tank. And what happened? About a week later, one hatched. And now there's 7 of them. And I'd been keeping them in one of Ike's old slime tubs. Here's me Googling how to get a sticker off glass. But yeah, back to dog sitting. As much of a nuisance Smithers can be, I am very happy to have him whilst my brother's at work. Because I don't know if you remember the video where I cleaned my dad's kitchen. My brother lives with my dad. But in that video I talk a lot about ADHD and autism and how those conditions affect a lot of my family members, my brother being one of them. And I discussed the troubles he's been having finding and keeping jobs. Well, an update on that, he now has a job, obviously. But he now works at the same place me and Charlie do. Here's me and the boys headed out to get some bramble for the stick insect tank. There were so many blackberries. I can't wait to come back later in the summer when they're ripe and pick loads to make a blackberry crumble. But as I was saying, me, Charlie and my brother all now work at the same place. I know, it's like a family gathering. Charlie's my supervisor, so that's fun. I try to stay out of his way at work. because he turns into a goblin. For those of you who don't know, Charlie's my partner. But yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled for my brother. I can already tell it's given him a massive boost of confidence, it's gotten him out of his comfort zone, and it's just what he needed. So yeah, I just wanted to give you that positive update for anyone who's been following along since I made that video and introduced you to my family and a kind of backstory. If you haven't watched that video, I delve into the links between neurodivergence and messiness, shyness, social issues and addiction, and a lot of other stuff. And it's a very satisfying clean if I do say so myself, so you might enjoy that. But back to this video. I wanted to make this tank as true to life as possible, with soil and wood and moss. Because last year we literally just had the floor of the tank bare and one branch for them to hang off, and I thought, that can't be nice. Fun fact about these kind of stick insects is their environment influences what colour they'll ultimately be. So you can get different colour morphs. The most generic is a kind of beigey brown colour, but you can also get bright green, dark brown, pale green, and there's a really rare morph called the lichen morph. And this happens when there's lots of lichen in their environment, which is this kind of fungus-algae hybrid. But those ones look so striking and cool. I'd love to have one at some point. If I had a lot of space and time, I'd buy multiple tanks and give each tank a different colour theme and test it out and see what morphs we could get. Maybe down the line. I just think that would be so interesting. So here's me putting the babies into their new home, and I'll show you what they look like when they're fully grown. So here's one of our adult girls. Isn't she just the coolest looking alien you've ever seen? The way they curl their tails up like that is a defence mechanism. It's a way to mimic scorpions, so predators think, I'm not going to take that risk. And they also dance back and forth like this as a kind of warning too. But I'm going to stop talking about stick insects now because I'm sure that's not the reason you clicked on this video. I promise there's still lots of cleaning motivation to come. I just get distracted and go off on tangents, but do you know what? That's who I am and I like to lean into it. But we're back to cleaning now. Now that is probably the longest break I've ever had not talking on a video. But I'm always trying to test out new things, see what works and what doesn't. I know lots of you are here because you love the chatter just as much as the cleaning, if not more. But on these extra long videos, I'm trying to figure out how to balance the talking with a few breaks. Not just to give my voice box a break, but to give your ears and your mind a minute or two. And to give you a more visceral cleaning experience with all the sounds and that satisfying stuff. I know I personally like to hear that stuff too. My channel will never not be a talking channel though, that's one thing for sure. I like to keep you company and be your body double. That's what I'm here for. And honestly, even if I wanted it to be, there's so much background noise and kids shouting and dogs barking and the washing machine going off. It just wouldn't be a relaxing ASMR experience for anybody. I also like to have background noise on myself pretty much all the time, whether that's my comfort shows or a podcast. It's a self-soothing thing. I don't like the sound of silence. I don't even go to sleep in silence, so yeah. That's something I really took into consideration when I started making these videos. When I'd be searching for cleaning videos, I'd want to feel like there was someone in the room with me, chatting along and keeping me company and pushing me to get things done. And oftentimes it's hard to find that. Anyway, I had to step away from the kitchen because it was irritating me, so we've moved on to the living room. Now, the living room wasn't too bad at all. To be honest, downstairs wasn't too bad at all, especially compared to the state that is upstairs. But I was trying not to think about upstairs, because the mindset I was in this day, I just couldn't face it. Usually I like to get the hardest thing out of the way first, because I feel like it makes you think, if I've got that done, I can do anything. And it encourages you and spurs you on. But sometimes, in order to get yourself to start, you've just got to get something done. The easiest thing done, whatever it is, just do something. So that's what I was doing today. As I said earlier on in the video, I've been really struggling. So I was trying to be gentle with myself and treat myself as I would a friend or one of my kids. And that meant just being proud of myself for what I did manage to achieve, even if it felt small in comparison to what I needed to get done overall. I will always be a huge advocate for splitting up tasks into manageable, bite-sized chunks. You don't have to get it all done in one go. I think what's caused my kind of slump is that I had such high expectations for the summer holidays. That's when the kids are off school. Not in terms of doing lots of fun things, we have done that and still have a lot of cool things planned. But in terms of my moods, I've just felt kind of muted. And when I've not felt like that, I've been anxious or irritable. And that makes me distracted. And that is the one thing I didn't want to be when my kids were off school. Here's the downstairs toilet. I left that because it was in pretty decent shape. And then I just wanted to neaten up this corner so I could sit and watch something while I epilated my legs. Now, I don't like hair removal. I don't do it much anymore, but because we were going on holiday, I thought, why not? And the reason I don't do it much anymore, I'll shave every now and then, but it's because I am like a werewolf. My hair will literally grow back within hours like magic. Have you ever watched Evan Almighty? You know when he grows that beard, he shaves it, he looks down and then looks back up and the beard's there again? That's what my leg hair is like. And it's so thick as well, so when I epilate I sometimes use a numbing cream. So that's what I'm doing here. It hurts so much to pull it out at the root. I'm not even being a wuss, I have a really high tolerance for pain. You're probably looking at my leg here thinking, you can't even see any hair, but it's there. And it's so coarse, it's like pulling out cactus spines. Put one of my comfort movies on, Hot Fuzz. And yeah, no matter what I do, whether I shave or wax, my legs never feel smooth. Even after waxing and it looks like all the hair's gone, there's like this second layer of really short, see-through, thick hair. Waxing can't pick it up, the epilator can't get rid of it, and with shaving, you can just still feel it. It just feels like gritty sandpaper 24/7. Is anyone else the same as me, or am I just alone in this experience? So yeah, I just think now I'd rather have slightly longer, softer hair, rather than get rid of it and then just have skin that feels like it could sand down a chair leg. I used to be mortified about it when I was younger, and I'd spend so much time on hair removal, and now I just think, whatever. I'm not messing around with it. I don't want to spend hours of my life on upkeep and maintenance and be in pain and get ingrown hairs and rashes to still feel like a porcupine at the end of it. My skin is really prone to that, ingrown hairs and bumps. And all the exfoliation in the world doesn't stop it. I've tried everything. I've even tried like spearmint tea and licorice and things to stop androgen levels to see if it made my hair smoother. No. And at this point of my life, I don't want to be with a person that'd think any less of me for being human and having a bit of body hair. Especially when that person doesn't have to do any of that to be considered attractive. Can't be doing with double standards. By the way, shout out to Charlie for clearing that corner after he got back from work because I couldn't face it. He also wiped down all the sides and just finished the kitchen, bless him. The only thing he left for me was the floors because I'm better at it. But yeah, humans have hair. We always have done. Some of us just have more than others. And the thing is, this idea that women shouldn't, it's still a relatively new concept. It's an opinion and a preference that's formed over the last century, really. And it's just not something I continue to let myself get affected by. I don't have the energy. But the reason I speak so openly about things like this now is because that's what I needed back then. I needed to see people who were unashamed and just unapologetically them, warts and all. I think it's so important on social media to show the sides of ourselves that maybe aren't as palatable, and to talk about the topics that feel embarrassing but shouldn't be. When we have a presence online, we have the option and the privilege to cherry pick what we share. And I just think, why hide? We're humans being watched by other humans. And the world needs honesty and comic relief and connection now more than ever. And I think if more people just spoke openly about these kind of things, then the next generation of girls won't grow up to be so embarrassed and ashamed of themselves. I feel that way about normalising the fact that not everyone's home is pristine 24/7 as well. But I think, given the theme of this channel, that one's more obvious. As I finished the floors, Charlie was upstairs getting the bags packed and the boys ready for a night at my mum's. If you ever watched my really early videos, you'll know that I was the type of person that when the house got into a bit of a mess, like it is now, when the motivation struck, I'd want to get it all done in one big go. And as my youngest has gotten older and a bit more demanding of my time, it's just not possible. Not if I want to keep anyone's sanity intact and remain a gentle and calm, patient, present parent. In the summer holidays, I can barely wash one pot without getting interrupted. So yeah, like I said, what I got done today I feel was a big achievement and I was really proud of myself, especially considering how bad I'd been feeling, and I do want to talk about that a bit more later on.
You've got barriers up there, so.
After downstairs was nice and tidy, we dropped Ike off at my mum's house and had some quality time at the bowling alley with Rudy. I think when you have multiple kids, especially if there's a bigger age gap, it's so important to try and carve out one-on-one time. There's 5 years between Rudy and Ike, and if we'd have taken Ike, he'd have monopolised all of our time, he'd have been running off, causing havoc, and Rudy wouldn't have gotten that quality time with us that he deserves. I was winning, which caused both Rudy and Charlie to sulk, especially Charlie because he underestimated me and he didn't think I was this good at bowling. After that we had a Nando's, and yeah, I feel like we don't do this as much as we should. But it's because finding time and childcare is difficult. When we got back to my mum's, Ike was having his dinner. Here's one of my mum's beautiful flower arrangements. She grows all of these flowers in her allotment, and she'd made these pies for dinner. One of her cousins and his son had come round to eat. So as they ate, I relaxed and read a bit of my book. By the way, I do acknowledge how lucky we are to even be able to do this occasionally and to have parents who are still with us and who are so active and involved in our lives. This, for example, my mum knew I was feeling low, so she ran me a lush bath. Isn't her bathroom so dreamy? I'll show you around. But yeah, how could this not cheer you up? I rarely get time for a bubble bath, and she'd pick loads of petals from the flowers in her garden. She was looking after the boys downstairs. And just knowing that I had no time constraints and everybody was safe and happy downstairs, no one was stressed, my house wasn't getting messy again. I knew that once I got home I could just pick up where I left off and I wouldn't have to redo any of the cleaning. I didn't realise how much that made a difference to my mental health. My mum gets these boxes from Lush once a month, and each month is a different theme. This one was Bridgerton. Here's my childhood bedroom, which is now the guest bedroom. Didn't look like this when I lived in it though. When I was younger, you couldn't see the floor of this room the majority of the time. Every surface was filled with clutter. And she's transformed it into such a cosy space. She's kept some of my old things like my tap shoes and some of the books I used to read. Here's a tapestry of the house she had commissioned. And all of my old Disney VHS tapes. I was just so happy and relieved to be here. Charlie had gone back home to get an early night because he was up again at 5 a.m. for work, so it was just me and the boys. And it was just what I needed to give me the strength to go back and finish the rest of the house. The next day we had a really slow morning. The boys played with Play-Doh. In their matching pyjamas, of course. My mum is obsessed with buying matching PJs for them. Here's a bit of my mum's weird and wonderful house. I've said for the longest time I'll show you around one day. This is a portrait I painted of my brother when I was in my early teens. And next to it, all of my mum's mythical creatures and books. This is the best part of the room, the fireplace. And yeah, I'll have to make a full video to show you around one day because there's so much to see. Here are my mum's, I call them gargoyle cats. I absolutely love them. How beautiful are they? They're a mixture between a Sphinx and a Selkirk Rex. And believe it or not, they actually had about 10 homes before my mum took them in. And that's because the previous owners didn't realise they had food intolerances and they were pooing all over the house. But thankfully that's all resolved now. Here's my mum's garden. Isn't it just amazing? My mum is the happiest when she's in nature and growing something. And the garden's just filled with different kind of plants and foods and flowers. Here I am picking some white currants for the boys. We moved into this house when I was around 11, I think. And at the time, my mum and stepdad were the youngest couple on the street. Because the houses were quite expensive, the only people who could really afford them were older. The reason my mum was able to buy this house was all down to my granddad, but that's a story for another day. This is Pipkin the tortoise having some breakfast. But there are a few neighbours that have always disliked, and made it very known they disliked, the fact that my mum lets the garden grow, quote-unquote, wild. Most of the other gardens look like they're owned by the Stepford wives, and they're always looking into each other's gardens, having competitions. And then my mum comes along with cauldrons and broomsticks by the front door. You can imagine the reaction. Anyway, we're back home, and I was feeling energised and raring to go. As you can see, the garden is coming along beautifully. I've managed to grow the grass back. Let me show you what it looked like before. So a year ago, there was barely any grass left on this lawn because it had been eaten by leather jacket grubs. In this shot, we'd brought my auntie's chickens over to see if they could get rid of some of them. We even resorted to going out at night and trying to pick them out of the ground one by one. You just put a slug in there with them.
Was that a slug?
Yeah. But yeah, there was a time not long ago I could only dream of having a lawn like this. And I've actually been documenting the entire garden transformation process from start to finish to show you all. It's been almost 2 years in the making now, and I'm so excited to show you what we achieved. At this point, I was very happy that I'd made the decision to get all the work done bit by bit, because it turned out to be a lovely sunny day that I didn't want to waste inside cleaning up. And I thought, once I've cleaned up the garden a little bit, I'll get the paddling pool out and me and the boys can just chill for the rest of the day. Just tidying up this little space gave me a sense of accomplishment. And again, I was very grateful for the sunny day because it meant we were going to be out of the house, not making more mess. That's one of my big stressors usually, that whilst I'm tidying up one mess, another will be being formed in a different room. And it just feels like this constant catch-up game that you can never win. It doesn't help that every single one of us in the house is a scatterbrain, and none of us remember to pick up after ourselves as we're going along. We do try, but as I said in another video, it's not a case of being more disciplined, it's the fact that we literally don't remember and don't see it in front of us when it's there. We're all in our own little worlds most of the time, so it can get messy quickly. But do you know what? We've got lots of great qualities to counteract that, and I always try and remind myself of that when I'm feeling down about it, and I like to remind you lot too. When you're in the midst of a guilt trip and you're thinking, why can't I just keep on top of things? It really helps to think of something you like about yourself. And yes, I am blowing this pool up with my own lungs in the sweltering heat. But yeah, oftentimes I think that gives us the push to then try and fix the mess in our lives, whatever mess that might be. For me, it's literal mess. But it's because when we pause and think about the things we like about ourselves, it makes us feel like we're worth our own effort. So I like to remind myself I might always be messy and struggle with that, but I'm kind. I don't think I have a mean bone in my body, and that's something I'm proud of. Now we're on to day 3, the final stretch, and this is where the hard work really started. In my house, it's usually upstairs is relatively clean and downstairs is a pigsty, or downstairs is alright, but upstairs you can't even see the floor. You can never have both clean at the same time, it seems. Not if I've got anything else going on in my life. And because it's the summer holidays and everything's full on, yeah, it is what it is. As I was saying earlier, I've been really struggling with my moods and feeling so guilty about it because I wanted so much to be the happiest, most enthusiastic version of me whilst the kids were off school. Years ago when I felt like this, I was able to kind of manufacture a different feeling and think myself into a more positive frame of mind. But I find that incredibly hard to do now. I don't think my brain's what it once was. I'm not going to lie. Sleep deprivation catches up with you. Here I'm just piling Charlie's clean washing onto his chair because it's not my job. I'd washed all of that a few days ago for him to put away, and I always fold his stuff and put it on his chair. And then if he wants to go on his game, and he's only got a limited amount of time, he'll end up just throwing it into the corner. So I will just pile and pile stuff onto that chair, because it's not my job to put it away. But yeah, I think there could be a number of reasons for the fluctuations in mood. After the birth of Ike, my second, I've found it increasingly hard to get a handle on them, like noticeably. They're so up and down. And I don't know, maybe that's me entering into my 30s and edging closer to perimenopause. But I think the actual culprit for it is before I had kids, I had so many tools in place used to regulate my moods. And I thought I was so zen and nothing could faze me, no matter what life threw at me. I thought I had everything figured out and I was the master of myself. But I now know that was because I'd spend hours of my day meditating, reading, exercising, and nobody had any demands over me or my time. At this point, I'd started on the washing, there was lots to do, and I was in the zone. Charlie had taken the boys out, I was watching Insidious, but yeah. I love horrors, but I never get to watch them anymore because Charlie's not the biggest fan. I think he's scared. And obviously I can't have them on in the day when the boys are around because that would be traumatising. So I was having a lovely bit of me time. I've always been a really solitary person and loved the fact that after socialising, I could come home and be on my own for extended periods of time to recharge. That's what kept me level. Obviously, when you become a parent, you don't get that time anymore to centre and ground yourself. And the more children you have, I think if you're a person like me, the more dysregulated you can become. The harder it is to have a handle on your emotions day to day. And I struggle with that, because I have a Zen dad, and I really look up to him. That man's mood is so consistent and calming, and that's the behaviour I wanted to model when I became a parent. And I carry a lot of guilt because sometimes I think my children deserve the version of me that I was before I became a mum. And Charlie deserves the person I was before I went through a huge heartbreak for the first time. I know it sounds silly. And when I really think about it, I'm a lovely mum and girlfriend. On the days I have been a bit grumpy or maybe I've snapped a little, I always apologise and take the time to make sure everybody knows it wasn't anything they'd done and that mum's just struggling with her feelings. And I think that counts for a lot. But anyway, because I haven't been in a fantastic mood, I feel like I haven't made the holidays as fun as they could have been so far. And I haven't chosen to maybe take the time to chat as much with the kids and be present as much. And that's not to say I'm not doing these things, but I think certain moods can really cloud and distort your perspective of how the day's going. I hold this silly mindset that if the situation isn't ideal or my mood isn't jovial from the off, the day's ruined and it needs to go in the bin. I do this with other things too. Eating, for example. Whenever I've tried to make a lifestyle change or choose healthier habits, the second I slip up, maybe I gave in and ate something I wasn't planning to eat, I'd automatically be like, right, well, this day's a write-off then. I'm now going to absolutely stuff my face and start again tomorrow. Rather than thinking, it's a hiccup, we can still turn the day around. So yeah, I do the same when the days started out rough. I struggle to remember that just because this is how the day's started doesn't mean it has to stay like this. The day's not a write-off. Or just because circumstances aren't perfect or I'm having a low mood doesn't mean there won't be any beautiful or meaningful moments during that time. And it made me think back to my granddad's funeral, arguably one of the saddest days of my life. But there was a moment that I remember to be one of the funniest and one of the best interactions between two humans I'd ever witnessed. And I'll tell you more about that in a second. So I was blessed to have 3 granddads, my mum's stepdad, her biological dad, and my dad's dad. Only one of those granddads is still with us. And this was my step-granddad's funeral. But he was never my step-granddad. He was always just granddad, and he was with my grandma before I was born. Anyway, my mum and dad got together when they were 14 and split up around age 28. So my dad basically grew up with my mum and with my auntie and her cousins and around my grandma and both my granddads on my mum's side. And that's relevant to this conversation because when my granddad died, despite him and my mum being separated for 20 years, my dad still came to my granddad's funeral because obviously he loved and respected him. Nothing changed there. So because everyone at the funeral was mostly my mum's side of the family, and some people my dad hadn't seen for like 5-10 years, I kind of stood with my dad throughout the whole thing. And as we were waiting outside the church before the service, me and my dad were stood together, and one of my mum's cousins stood on his own, so we kind of shifted towards him. So we said hello, and the 3 of us stood there in silence. Now, it's important to mention here that that cousin is very awkward, and my dad, also a very quiet man at times. Both of these men, super intelligent. And me, if I'm with other shy or awkward people, I will stand there in silence. So there we all were, not talking. Everyone on the ground kind of nervous, because we all knew what we were about to go into. And you could feel it in the air. You could feel that at any given moment, anyone could just burst into tears. I couldn't look my grandma in the eye because I would have just been bawling before I even got in there. She looked so fragile. But yeah, we all stood there, the sun shining on us, the wind brushing through our hair, and I could feel everybody's nervousness. And in that moment, a ladybird landed on this cousin's jacket. And I watched my dad clock it. A minute went by, ladybird was still there. And I was just watching this, really bemused. And I watched my dad lift his finger and point at the ladybird and just say, "There's a ladybird on you." It was like, you know in Shaun of the Dead where he's like, "You've got red on you." And my mum's cousin looks down and just in the most blasé way possible goes, "Oh yeah," and then looks back up. Ladybird's still there. And I think to just relieve some of the awkwardness, without missing a beat, my dad just goes, Well, it's always nice to have a badge. And at this point, I'm in hysterics because I just thought, what a strange interaction. Neither of them laughed. And then we all just started walking in to say our final goodbyes to my granddad. And the ladybird flew away. And yeah, I just thought, what a bizarre moment that was. It was absolute perfection. And he is right, it is always nice to wear a badge. My 2-year-old loves wearing them. And despite it being such a sad time, it reminded me that even in the worst of times, there can be moments of just such joy and silliness. I think about the ladybird badge often. It always gives me a chuckle. And I don't know, maybe how funny it was doesn't translate properly because you had to be there and know the people well. So that's kind of my vibe at the minute. Just accepting each day and each mood, not trying to fight it or fight myself because of it. The day can still be beautiful and meaningful. The day can still be turned around. And it definitely doesn't mean I've ruined the summer holidays for my children or me because I haven't felt as happy as I thought I was going to. They've probably got no clue and are still living their best lives. In fact, I know they are. I decided to use the flash mop for the floor today. Even though I usually use a mop and bucket, the thought of doing that and waiting for the floor to dry stressed me out. So in this clean, I'm choosing to take the path of least resistance. Here's the boys' room all finished. Charlie and the boys did that together, so I didn't get that bit on film. And now the house was all done, it was time to pack for our holiday. Nothing stresses me out more, but I had Charlie with me and he's always cool as a cucumber. Day 1 of our family holiday and we were up bright and early ready for the 2-hour journey. When we got there, our hotel wasn't ready for us to check in for about 3 or 4 hours, so we decided to just have a walk around and see what was out there. If you're wondering why Ike's on reins, it's because he's a blooming flight risk. He just darts off without any warning and it's scary. Anyway, here's the sea. It was quite cold and very windy this day. So we made a plan of what we were going to do the 3 days we were here, and crabbing was on the agenda for today. So we made a trip into town and got all of the equipment we needed. And of course, the boys had to make a trip inside the shop to look at all the toys.
Pikachu! That boy. Look at that.
While we were there was lots of work being done on the beach, as you can see there, moving rocks to help prevent coastal erosion, which was obviously very exciting for the boys, especially Ike because he is obsessed with cars at the minute. Any kind of vehicle. Anyway, me and the boys waited while Charlie set up the crabbing net, and it was time to see if we could catch anything. Me and Charlie were absolute novices at this and really didn't want to let the boys down. There seemed to be no one else catching crabs apart from one woman who'd brought her own tin of mackerel. We just used some dry bits of fish that we got with the crabbing pack. And unfortunately, there were no biters, so we fed the seagulls instead. Oh no! After that, we went for dinner at the fish and chip shop in town. Oh my god, it was amazing. There's nothing better than having fresh fish and chips in a seaside town. True to form, Rudy said it was horrible and wouldn't eat his. And then it was time to check in at our hotel and unpack. We stayed at the Clifton Hotel, and it's this really old, spooky building. I loved it. And you got a view of the ocean. Let's take you up the creaky stairs and show you what our hotel room looked like. It was a lovely place to stay. The staff were really kind. They served breakfast in the morning. And they also have their own restaurant, which we went to on the last day. And we decided we were going to eat there almost seconds after arriving because we saw someone being served one of their pizzas and it looked amazing. We even had our own mini fridge in the room, but only the water was free, so none of that was touched. Here's the view from the window. On that grass patch there, people were playing mini golf. There was some lovely nautical themed art on the wall and a lovely clean bathroom. Just what you want for a little family holiday, really. After we'd unpacked, we made our way down to the beach. Yeah, if you can try and find some.
Let's go over this way, look.
At this point, it was around 6 o'clock in the afternoon. The boys had boundless energy because they napped in the car all the way here, and Rudy was still desperate to find a crab, and I thought we might have better luck in the rock pools. I pride myself on being an excellent creature catcher in situations like this. They're not the best kind of rock pools here, but I was certain there was some kind of things living here. Rock pooling's one of my best childhood memories, when we used to go to Wales and Whitby. And watching my boys get to have the same experiences now makes my heart so full. It's right there.
Can't see.
There's a shrimp. Oh, that's gone.
There's a shrimp as well, look. The shrimp's attacking Mummy.
Isn't it? We didn't manage to catch anything that first night, but we saw a shrimp, and that was good enough for the boys. That shrimp wasn't happy with me at all. Although I don't suppose you would be, someone just plonking their hand in the middle of your home. Anyway, we had one last paddle in the sea before we went back to the hotel for the night. This is the first time Ike's had the courage to step into the ocean. When we went on holiday last year, he wouldn't even dip a toe in it. On the morning of day 2, we had breakfast in the hotel restaurant. I had a fry up. Rudy had fried egg and toast and was revolted to find out they had chives on them. So I had to handpick every single chive off it. Loved that for myself. And while I was doing that, Charlie was chasing Ike into the hotel lobby because he wouldn't sit at the table. After breakfast, we went back into town. Rudy was so excited to swim in the sea again, but the tide was in. So we went to check out this mini lifeboat museum. And you got to learn about all the amazing people who do rescues on the ocean. And Charlie was informing me all about how lifeboats don't sink and why. After that, Rudy couldn't contain his excitement anymore, so we found the tiniest sliver of beach and had some crab. Mine ended up getting stolen by a Labrador. The owners were very embarrassed. It wasn't the dog that's swimming there, though. We were just enjoying watching him have the time of his life catching his ball over and over again. By the way, in case you're wondering where Mushroom is, she's at my auntie's. I don't know if you remember me telling you what happened last year when we went to Cornwall with both of our dogs, but we won't be taking dogs on holiday with us for a very long time. Anyway, we decided to give rock pooling another go because we found this bit with a bit more water in. And I was determined I was going to catch a crab by the end of this holiday. First creature we caught was a shrimp. Here's us letting him go, because I know if I was watching this, I'd be sat there thinking, please, I need to know, have you let him go? It always panics me the thought of the creatures being left in the bucket and overheating. So I promise you, every single fellow we caught was released shortly after, and we finally caught a crab. A pretty decent sized one too. We ended up finding multiple by the end, and Charlie made friends with another dad, and they spent the afternoon trying to catch these little eels. You ready? Let him go then.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, crab.
Bye, crab.
Ah, there he goes.
Where's he going?
Going back into the rocks to hide. Ike found a snail and was extremely impressed with it.
Like a water fountain.
Here's one of the other crabs we found. This one was such a cool green colour. And after we finished rock pooling, we went to eat at the hotel restaurant. Those are the pizzas I was telling you about. I remember asking the manager that was on shift if we could be seated outside, because Ike's at the age where he can get a little bit disruptive and I didn't want to disturb any of the other diners. And bless him, he went to us, "No, children are welcome here. This is a child-friendly establishment, and if anyone's got a problem with that, they can come to me." And I don't know, I really appreciated that because I don't think people realise how much that can just put someone at ease. Anyway, it was our last full night at Cromer, so we wanted to walk around and see it all lit up at night. So while we were waiting for it to get a bit darker, we had ice creams, and as you can see there, Ike was a bit upset because he had the wrong colour on his. We took some family photos, and then just stood and looked at how beautiful the scenery was.
Most dangerous animal
Oh, you mean like when the dinosaurs were around?
That looks really cute. I really want to go there one time.
On the last morning, we headed out to the pier to give crabbing one last shot. And of course, this was our last day because the sun was finally out and the weather was warm. And this was the day we'd promised the boys we'd spend in the arcades. Never mind. Just look how beautiful the views are.
Bye-bye, mackerel.
Bye-bye, mackerel. Of course, we tried mackerel this time round.
No, mackerel. Oh.
Is it still doing it? But sadly, the current was too strong and it kept pulling the net away. I asked Rudy to tip the rest of the mackerel out for the seagulls, and it landed on him, so he was not impressed with me. Nobody's flown to get it. After that, we decided to have a walk round and do some exploring because the weather was just too lovely to spend it inside on the arcades all day. I think he's coming in here. After that, we went into the Henry Blogg Museum, where you could learn all about Henry Blogg, who was a lifeguard who saved over 873 people. And I think that was back in the 1940s. And there was lots of puzzles and cool stuff for the kids to look at. Oh yeah?
and the head has to be that size. So for example, this one, look, that one should be perfect. That one's honestly.
Then we headed for our final little meal, which was brunch at this really cute cafe.
What's that?
It's the yolk.
Get it out of my sight. It looks horrible. Get it out of my mum. Please, can you get it out of my sight?
Rudy.
Rudy complaining as usual. Anyway, before we went home, we went to the arcade. My granddad had given the boys a bag of coins each, so we were like, go for it.
Yes.
Oh, yes it is. Ike, you've dropped the doggies. It's going to let you, just got to wait for it. I absolutely love how Charlie is with the boys. I couldn't have wished for a better partner. He's just so gentle and patient, and honestly, it's what we need in our household. I definitely needed someone who was able to calm me down and reassure me when my mind's going to anxious places. And I'm just so happy and grateful we got to have this time together, and I can't wait to do it again next year. So yeah, it's been a bit of a different one for you, this video, but I really hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. And I'll be back next time, hopefully, with our full garden transformation video.